Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another predictions video. And in today's video I'm going to be predicting the Hunter versus Chaney fight. And so if you're new around here and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so. Like, but if you do indeed like the video, and let's get straight into it. So going into this fight, Hunter is 22-1-2 with 16 KOs, and Chaney is 23-1 with 16 KOs. This fight is for the WBA Interim World Heavyweight title. Hunter's last fight was a win via TKO in round 5 versus Esparza, and Chaney's last fight was a win via KO in round 7 versus Bryan. Chaney is 6'6" and Hunter is 6'2". Hunter is 35 and Chaney is 37. Hunter's loss came via unanimous decision versus Usyk in 2017, and Chaney's loss came via split decision versus Arias in 2021. And to speak a bit more about what I've just been saying, like I say, this for the interim WBA World Heavyweight title, that would be for the regular belt, which Char holds currently. So, you know, it's not really a massive heavyweight fight. Obviously it has that interim world champion status on it, but realistically, when you look at who is the actual regular title holder, obviously it being Char, and Char not really fighting anybody at the moment, it's not a massive fight, but it's one as matchup wise I think is a good matchup, and it's going to make for an intriguing fight, and that's why I'm here talking about it. Obviously I'm going to speak about the Broner fight as well in a minute, but in general this fight I think it makes for a good fight. Hunter, he's fought a couple times recently. It's, you know, just been out, I believe, in Mexico, just a couple of takeover fights from what it seems, getting him back active again. And I suppose before that he was hardly ever active, and I mean he had the Jerry Forrest draw and the Wilson win, which was his last big impressive, like really good impressive knockout victory. But, you know, then yeah, he went away for a while and was annoyed that he was getting kicked out of ranking bodies and things like that. But now he's back fighting, and this is the fight which I think is going to, like I say, be a good one. It probably does make sense this fight to happen. Chaney, his last fight was versus Bryan, was a strange fight. Bryan, being a former world heavyweight champion, obviously it wasn't like one of the massive titles, but still nonetheless being a former world heavyweight champion, he didn't really fight anybody, I suppose, to get that belt of note that he beat. But either way, he looked awful. He looked so, you know, overweight coming into it. He just looked slow. He looked like he didn't care. He did put it on Chaney, like physical pressure wise, but Chaney could have got him out of there much sooner. It seemed like every shot he pretty much landed was hurting Bryan, and Bryan was there to get caught and to get hit throughout the whole fight. Chaney literally could have just, like I say, landed at any point and got him out of there. It took a lot longer than I think it should have done for him to be able to do that, and I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing or not, but he was doing nice boxing. He was working nicely behind the jab. He wasn't doing anything reckless, and he looked clean in his work, where sometimes you see heavyweights not especially look quite as clean in their work, and them fundamentals look sharp. And it's going to be interesting to see how he comes into this fight. I don't necessarily know if he can come in quite so waiting just to pick that big shot, or quite so passive in some of his work, but we're going to have to wait and see. Obviously he has that huge height advantage, so if physicality wise he can do something in that aspect, maybe that could help, but I don't know, because Hunter's used to fighting smaller, being the smaller guy when he's fighting, especially since he's been at the heavyweight division. But Chaney's also not really that physically imposing. He's willing to go on the back foot. So it's going to be interesting to see who's the one that does want the centre of the ring. Obviously they are both on the little bit the older side, but in general I think the whole heavyweight division at the top level is realistically at the moment, when you look at, you know, of course Usyk being on the older end of the 30 scale, and Fury as well, and you know it seems like that is the age around to be fighting the heavyweight division at the moment. And obviously Hunter's loss coming via unanimous decision versus Usyk, it's nothing wrong with that. Back down at cruiserweight back in 2017, where Usyk was just showing his skill and showing his class and making Hunter hesitant at times and doing what he does best, and there's nothing wrong with that realistically. But you know, some of his draws have been interesting. Of course, the one versus Jerry Forrest, the one versus I believe Povetkin as well, they've been close, and perhaps he does make fights a little bit more closer than they should be. But you know, either way, Chaney's loss, I haven't actually seen his loss versus Arias, but not quite as long ago. So, and also via split decision as well, doesn't surprise me because of his style being a little bit passive at times. Perhaps he could get outthrown, and Hunter might be able to do that. But to speak about of course, the Broner fight, which is on this card. Adrian Broner versus Blair Cobbs. It's a interesting matchup, to be completely honest. I'm not against the matchup at all. I think Don King coming and saying everything about Broner being able to make a world title claim again, I don't necessarily believe that that's going to happen. You never know with boxing, but I just don't see it happening with the way that things are going with Broner at the moment. Obviously, he is on the older side, and also I don't necessarily believe he's keeping himself in shape quite as much, and you know, things are distracting him on the outside world and things like that, which I suppose I don't really blame him, but it's interesting to still see him back fighting. I think this is a good matchup for him. I think it's going to be a tough matchup. Broner, he looked quite good in his last fight versus Hutchinson. He looked very slow to an extent, but he was putting on pressure. He had that slick element at times with some of his head movement to counters that he was throwing, and so you can still see the talents there, but it was just quite slow, plodding type style where he is there to get hit quite a lot. Cobb's last performance was an entertaining one. It was an aggressive one, and he managed to drop, I believe it was Maidana, down a few times, and it was an interesting fight. I believe his style is unique. It's defensive wise very poor, but attacking wise it's entertaining, and I think Cobbs is going to win via unanimous decision. It wouldn't surprise me if they give some sort of decision, perhaps a little bit unfairly, to Broner, but nonetheless I think Cobbs could just outthrow Broner, and Broner a lot of the time having his head on the line and being just in front of you. I think that could favour Cobbs' style. I believe Cobbs will get caught with lots of shots, but I also believe he'll be able to land quite strongly on Broner. I don't think he'll be able to knock him down or anything, but like I say, I think he would be able to get a unanimous decision / split decision victory. Going back to the Hunter versus Chaney fight, Hunter's style, he's a come forward, aggressive type style a lot of the times with very good combinations. I've seen some really impressive in close combinations that he throws with, mixing in a nice uppercut and just in general good shot selection that he has. Changes levels well, quite fast hands to be fair to him as well. I believe Chaney's also got quite fast hands as well. He's got good timing, Hunter, when he sets up that overhand shot, which he can throw very nicely and very cleanly. He's managed to get some impressive highlight reel type knockouts just from his timing alone. He has, like I say, that powerful overhand. He doubles up his shots nicely as well, which is also impressive to see. In close / mid-range work, he can do both equally as well. His work rate is very high, like he can fight into the 10th round and still be throwing a very high volume of shots, which is also an impressive thing for a heavyweight as well, something we don't really see. He's confident, he's always seemed to have that confidence about him, and I'm sure going back and returning back to a world level, he's going to really want to put on a destructive type performance. He's explosive, his style. I think he's got quite a good balance in some of the stuff that he does to be able to go in close the way that he does and throw them combinations. You have to have that good balance, and I believe he has that. And he does load up on them shots, but like I said, the timing of them is nice. Negatives about him, of course, the inactivity, world level inactivity is most likely going to play somewhat of a factor, but I think, like I say, this is a good fight for both fighters. I think this is a step up for both fighters, and yeah, it's going to be intriguing to see if we can still see that same version of Hunter which we were seeing before. He does have a low guard, he can be perhaps overly aggressive at times. I think sometimes he can struggle accuracy wise against smaller fighters, but you know, he doesn't have to worry about that with Chaney. He's using his jab efficiently. Sometimes I think he can forget his jab a little bit and then maybe not set up his shots quite as much. He does cross his feet over at times, he can force the fight a bit, he is there to be hit, he can be made hesitant, but that's only realistically against the best. Like I say, Usyk did that, but I don't necessarily believe if everybody could do that. He headhunts quite a lot as well, so you know, he does go to the body nice and can change the levels of his jab, but he does also headhunt quite a lot at times as well. So if he's trying to force the fight, Chaney might be able to cover up and possibly catch him with one of his shots coming in. We'll have to wait and see. Speak about Chaney as a fighter. He's got a nice controlled jab. Like I say, that he's got good solid boxing fundamentals. It's clean boxing. It's nice to see. I don't necessarily know if he has that level of aggression that what Hunter has, but you don't necessarily always need that. He moves well and he has that mid-range type style, so if he can use that reach, maintain that distance, keep Hunter at a mid-range, he could definitely find success. He uses straight shots well, he's accurate in his work a lot of the time as well. Back foot type fighter a majority of the time, so if he welcomes pressure and walks Hunter onto a shot, he could do that with that low guard that Hunter has. He's got a nice tight guard, holds that power. When he gains confidence, when he knocked down Brian for that rest of the round, he gained that confidence and he looked really good and he really did start to let his hands go then, but he just has to gain that confidence to be willing to let his hands go. He's got good timing as well, fast hands as well with a nice quick jab. There are definitely clean attributes about his game, which is going to be interesting to see. Negatives about him, of course he doesn't let his hands go and he can be hesitant at times. I think he respected the power of Bryan a bit too much, and he really could have got him out of there, like I said earlier, but he just respected it a bit too much and really didn't let his hands go early enough. Imposing his physical size, like I say, he goes pretty much straight onto the back foot a lot of the time, can wait a bit too long for his shots. In close, I don't think he does a lot of his best work. I think he can struggle in close at times. Following up on his shots when he does get you up against the ropes, he just doesn't seem to want to follow up on some of his work and in combinations wise. He does move back in straight lines. He can invite pressure. He fights at quite a slow pace. He doesn't really move his opponents around the ring too much. He also can slow down a little bit at times, and his footwork in general isn't always impressive, especially in close. Like I say, he moves well, but it isn't impressive overly in close. Hunter is the favourite for this fight, and I think that Hunter's going to win via TKO in round 10. I think he could really wear down Chaney, and if from what I've seen, if we still have this old version of Hunter that I'm used to seeing, we could see him really turning up the pace into the later rounds and then just being too much. And I don't necessarily know if he could get a highlight reel knockout or anything like that against Chaney, because Chaney's going to be a tough guy to get down, but I think he could let his hands go and really work him, and if he gets him backed up, if Chaney invites that pressure, then I think he would let his hands go and Hunter, and then be able to get him out of there from there with them nice combinations in close that, like I've said, he has. So yeah, I think he could win TKO round 10. Then who could go on to fight? Bacoli's fighting Anderson. You never know, that could be a good matchup. Hughie Fury was meant to fight him a little while ago, and he's making his return now and had a few fights, Hughie, now. So if they want to get him back into big time boxing, that fight could still be made. Or the winner of Joyce versus Chisora, I would be up for that fight. If Joyce wins, that would be a great fight, and it would be a real good step back into a world level for Joyce. I don't think Joyce can go straight from Chisora to, a really top level heavyweight. I think that Hunter fight would make sense for both fighters to then be like maybe not an eliminator, but an eliminator before world class level fighters, if that makes sense. But yeah, that is it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Like the video if you did, indeed like the video, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.